The warning lights painted Commander Elena Vasquez's face in shades of red and amber, as another explosion rocked the small research vessel. She gripped the armrest of her command chair, watching the main view screen flicker and die before sputtering back to life. The image it showed was not encouraging. Empty space stretched in every direction, cold and indifferent to her ship's dying struggles. "Engine core temperature critical," reported Lieutenant Chen from the engineering station. His voice remained steady despite the sweat running down his temples. "We've got maybe 3 hours before complete shutdown. Do this." Elena nodded, her jaw tight. She had been a commander for 6 years, leading research missions into the frontier territories, where human space met the unknown. This was supposed to be a simple mineral survey of asteroid K-449, a routine mission that would take 2 weeks at most. Instead, a micrometeorite shower had punched through their hull plating and severed the primary coolant lines. One freak accident, and now 12 people would die in the dark. "Life support status?" she asked, though she already knew the answer would not be good. 3 days of oxygen. "Maybe 4 if we ration it hard," Chen replied. "But without the engines, we have no heat. We'll freeze long before we suffocate." Elena looked around the small bridge. Her crew watched her with trust in their eyes, waiting for her to pull off a miracle. She was 34 years old, and she had never lost anyone under her command. The weight of that record pressed down on her shoulders like a physical thing. "Send out the distress beacon on all frequencies," she ordered. "Standard pattern. Maximum power." "Already done, Commander," said Ensign Okafor from communications. "But we're in the dead zone. No human ships patrol this sector. We're 20 light-years from the nearest outpost. The dead zone. That's what they called this stretch of space between human territory and the borders of other alien civilizations. A buffer zone where no one traveled because no one wanted to risk encountering strangers. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for only 30 years, and trust came slowly among the stars. Elena stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, the stars glittered like ice crystals, beautiful and merciless. She had always loved space. Ever since she was a child in New Chicago, staring up at the night sky and dreaming of touching those distant lights. Now, those same stars would be her grave. "Keep transmitting," she said quietly, "and begin cold sleep preparations. If we lower our metabolism, we might last longer." The hours crawled past. The ship grew colder. Elena rotated her crew through rest periods, making sure everyone ate and stayed hydrated. She walked the narrow corridors, checking on each person. Offering words of encouragement, she did not quite feel herself. In her private quarters, she recorded messages for her family. One for her mother, one for her brother, one for her niece who wanted to join the space service when she turned 18. She told them she was proud to have served. She told them not to grieve too long. She told them she loved them. On the second day, the heating failed completely. The crew bundled in thermal suits and huddled together for warmth. On the third day, frost began forming on the interior walls. Elena watched ice crystals spread across the viewport like reaching fingers. Then, on the morning of the fourth day, Okafor's voice crackled over the intercom, high with excitement and disbelief. "Commander, we've got a ship on sensors. It's changing course toward us." Elena ran to the bridge, her heart pounding. On the repaired view screen, she could see it now. A vessel, unlike any human design she had ever seen. It was elegant and organic in its curves, like a seashell or a nautilus spiral. The hull was a deep blue-green that seemed to shimmer with its own light. "Can you identify it?" she asked. Okafor shook his head. "Running it through the database now." "Wait. Commander, I think it's Ketalii." The word sent a ripple of murmurs through the bridge crew. Everyone knew about the Ketalii, though few had ever seen them. They were one of the oldest spacefaring species in this region of the galaxy. known for their advanced technology and their absolute refusal to interact with other races. Ketali space was marked on every navigation chart with warnings: do not enter, do not contact. They had been hurt badly in some ancient war, and they trusted no one. They're hailing us, Okafor said, surprise clear in his voice. Elena straightened her uniform, though it was rumpled and stained. Put them through. The view screen shifted, and Elena found herself looking at an alien face for only the second time in her life. The Catalii captain had large, dark eyes set in a narrow face, covered in fine scales that shifted between blue and silver. Two small crests rose from his head, flattening and rising as he studied her. His mouth was small and lipless, but his expression seemed concerned. Human vessel, he said, his voice translated by the ship's computer into accented English. I am Captain Shenkara of the merchant ship Whisper of Stars. Your distress signal reached me. Your ship is dying. It was a statement, not a question. Elena nodded. Yes. We suffered an accident. Our engines are failing, and we have limited life support. Shenkara's crests rose higher. How many are you? 12. Including myself. For a long moment, the Kitalii captain was silent. His eyes seemed to look past her, as if he was seeing something far away. Elena waited, barely breathing. Finally, he spoke. I will help you. Prepare your crew for transport. My ship has space for 12 more, though it will be uncomfortable. 3. Elena felt her knees go weak with relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. We can arrange payment once we reach human space. Our government will compensate you for... Shenkara raised one hand, cutting her off. I do not do this for payment. I do this because it is right. His crests flattened slightly. But I must tell you, by helping you, I break the laws of my people. When I return home, I will likely face exile. My family may be shamed. Do you understand what I am saying? Elena stared at him. Then why? Why help us if it will cost you so much? The alien captain was quiet for another moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Because once, long ago, my people needed help. No one came. I see your crew on my sensors, huddled together for warmth. I see you transmitting messages to your loved ones, saying goodbye. I cannot be the one who does not come. I cannot be the emptiness that answers your call. Elena felt tears burn in her eyes. She blinked them away. What's your name again? Shenkara. Shenkara. I am Commander Elena Vasquez. And I swear to you now, if you or your people ever need us, we will come. I swear it on Earth itself, on every human who has ever lived. This debt will be remembered. Shenkara's crests rose and fell in what might have been a smile. You honor me with your words, Commander, but my people will never call for help. We trust no one but ourselves. Now, please prepare for transport. Your ship does not have much time left. The rescue took 2 weeks. Shenkara's ship, the Whisper of Stars, was designed for a crew of 4, not 16. Every available space was converted into makeshift sleeping quarters. The cargo hold became a dormitory. The galley, barely large enough for one Catalii, had to feed 12 hungry humans. Shenkara shared everything. His food stores, carefully rationed. His water recycling systems, pushed to their limits. His personal quarters, which he gave to Elena and her senior officers while he slept in a maintenance closet. During those 2 weeks, Elena came to know the Catalii captain. He was quiet and thoughtful, often found sitting in the observation dome, watching the stars. He taught her crew simple Catalii words. He showed them how his people navigated by singing ancient songs that encoded star positions in melody and rhythm. He spoke of his daughter, Kira Shen, who was training to become a doctor on Katali Prime. I worry I will not see her again, he told Elena one night, as they shared a meal of synthesized protein and Katali grain paste. When my people learn what I have done, You saved 12 lives, Elena said firmly. That should be celebrated, not punished. Shankara's crests fluttered. You do not understand. We have been betrayed before. By species who promised friendship and delivered only pain. We closed ourselves off to protect what remained. To reach beyond those walls is to invite disaster. That is what my people believe. And what do you believe? He was quiet for a long time. I believe that walls built from fear become prisons. I believe that my daughter deserves to live in a galaxy where kindness is possible. I believe I did the right thing, even if it costs me everything. Elena reached across the small table and placed her hand over his three-fingered one. I meant what I said. If you ever need us, we will come. Shankara made a sound like a sigh. I hope you never have to prove those words, Commander. For if my people call for help, it means something has gone terribly wrong. When they finally reached the edge of human space, Elena and her crew transferred to a rescue ship that had been dispatched to meet them. The Whisper of Stars turned away, heading back toward Ketali territory. Elena watched it go, that beautiful ship with its spiral curves, until it vanished among the stars. She touched the small crystal Shankara had given her as a parting gift. It was a Ketali navigation crystal, inscribed with the coordinates of Ketali Prime and the opening notes of their star song. Remember, he had told her, though I doubt you will ever need to. But Elena Vasquez did not forget. As the years passed and she rose through the ranks, taking command of larger ships and more important missions, she kept that crystal on her desk. She told the story of Shankara to anyone who would listen. She made sure it was entered into the official records, into the databases that every human captain could access. She did not know then that 24 years later, a signal would echo across human space. She did not know that a debt incurred in darkness and cold would reshape the future of two species. She did not know that her promise, spoken in desperate gratitude, would become something far larger than herself. But she remembered, and that was enough. On Ketali Prime, in a modest dwelling near the medical district, Shankara returned home to face judgment. His people were shocked by what he had done. Some called for harsh punishment. Others simply turned away, refusing to acknowledge him. But his daughter, Kira Shen, embraced him with tears of pride in her large eyes, and in the quiet of their home, he told her about the humans he had saved, about a commander who made promises with the weight of worlds behind her words. Do you regret it, father? Kira Shen asked. Shankara looked out the window at the Ketali stars, thinking of 12 humans he would never see again. Thinking of a species young and fierce, and strangely hopeful. No, he said. I do not regret doing what was right. The crystal he had given Elena was one of a pair. The other rested now in his daughter's hands, warm and humming with stored starlight. A bridge between two species who did not yet know they would need each other, but they would. In time, they would. 24 years changed everything and nothing. Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable, her hands clasped behind her back as she watched a new class of fighters perform maneuvers outside the viewport. She wore the uniform of an admiral now, with 4 stars gleaming on her collar. Her hair had gone gray at the temples, and lines creased her face around her eyes and mouth. But when she smiled, watching the young pilots execute a perfect formation shift, that smile was the same one she had worn as a junior commander. They're getting better, said Captain Rodriguez, her executive officer. He was young enough to be her son, born the same year she had been rescued in the dead zone. They need to be, Elena replied. The galaxy isn't getting any friendlier. That much was true. In the 24 years since the Whisper of Stars had pulled her from the dark, humanity had exploded across the stars like a wildfire. From a handful of colony worlds, they now controlled 83 systems. Their ships flew trade routes through a dozen alien territories. Their marines trained in combat techniques that made older species nervous. Other races watched humanity's expansion with growing concern. The humans were aggressive in their trading, stubborn in their negotiations, and frighteningly quick to defend what they considered theirs. They formed alliances readily but broke them just as fast if betrayed. They seemed to operate on a code of honor that no one else quite understood. Dangerous. The Valorian merchants called them. Unpredictable, said the Corellian diplomats. Too emotional, complained the logical Rixathi. But none could deny that humans were here to stay. Elena had been part of that expansion. After her rescue, she had become something of a celebrity. The commander who had been saved by the mysterious Kitalii, the species no one ever saw, she used that fame to push for a policy of reciprocity in human dealings with aliens. If someone helps us, we help them back, she argued in countless briefings and committee meetings. If someone trades fairly with us, we trade fairly with them. If someone betrays us. She left that part unfinished. But everyone understood. Humanity's reputation for holding grudges was already legendary. She rose through the ranks quickly. Commander to captain in 4 years. Captain to Commodore in 6. Commodore to Rear Admiral in 10. Now, at 58 years old, she commanded the 7th Battle Group, one of the most powerful fleets in human space. But she had never forgotten Shankara. The Kitalii navigation crystal still sat on her desk, though that desk had changed many times over the years. She had it mounted in a protective case now, with a small light that made it glow soft blue-green in the evenings. When she worked late, as she often did, she would sometimes pick it up and run her fingers over its smooth surface. She had tried to contact Shankara over the years. The first attempt came 2 years after her rescue, when she had enough influence to send an official message to Kitalii space. It was returned unopened, along with a terse note from the Kitalii Border Patrol. Do not contact us. We wish to be left alone. She tried again 5 years later, then 10. Each time, the same result. The Kitalii had sealed their borders even tighter. No ships entered their territory. None left. They had gone completely silent, a blank spot on the galactic map that everyone agreed to ignore. Elena wondered often if Shankara was all right, if his daughter had become a doctor as she'd hoped, if he regretted saving 12 humans in exchange for his exile. She told his story at every opportunity. It became part of human naval tradition. Every officer candidate at the academy heard about the Kitalii captain, who risked everything to help strangers. It was used as an example in ethics classes. It appeared in training manuals under the section on debts and honor. We are a species that remembers. Elena told a graduating class of young officers one spring day on Earth. When someone helps us, truly helps us when they have nothing to gain and everything to lose, we remember. That debt becomes sacred. It becomes part of who we are. The cadets listened with shining eyes, and Elena wondered if any of them would ever need to prove those words. She was not the only human who had encountered the Kitalii over those 24 years. There were others, though the incidents were rare. A merchant captain named Marcus Chen had suffered a navigation computer failure near Kitalii space. A small Kitalii cargo ship had transmitted new star charts to him, then vanished before he could offer thanks. Captain Yuki Tanaka's science vessel had been caught in a spatial anomaly. A Kitalii research ship had pulled them free with a tractor beam, asked if everyone was unharmed, and departed, without giving their name. Each time, the humans tried to thank them. Each time, the Kitalii refused contact. Each time, the rescued humans swore the same oath Elena had sworn. If the Kitalii ever needed help, they would come. These stories spread through the human fleet like myths. The mysterious Kitalii, who appeared in moments of desperate need and vanished like ghosts. Some captains kept Kitalii navigation crystals as good luck charms, though few knew where to get them. Some studied the old recordings of Kitalii star songs, trying to understand a culture that had saved them but would not speak to them. Meanwhile, the galaxy grew more complicated. The Drath Imperium rose to power in the galactic east. They were a militaristic species, tall and heavily armored, who believed that strength gave them the right to rule. They conquered 3 smaller species in rapid succession, incorporating their worlds into the Imperium through what they called protective integration. Everyone knew it was just conquest with a prettier name. The Drath eyed human space with interest. Humanity controlled resource-rich systems and strategic trade routes. But they also had a reputation for being vicious when attacked. The Drath war princes debated whether humans would be easy prey or dangerous enemies. They decided to test the waters. A human mining colony on the frontier went silent. When a patrol ship investigated, they found the colony destroyed and Drath warships in orbit. The Drath commander claimed the system belonged to the Imperium by ancient right. The human response was immediate and overwhelming. 3 battle groups jumped into the system within 6 hours. They surrounded the Drath fleet and gave them one chance to surrender. The Drath commander, surprised by the speed and fury of the human response, chose wisdom over pride. He withdrew, and the Imperium filed a formal complaint about human aggression, but they did not return to that system. Elena watched these developments with growing concern. She attended the strategic briefings where analysts discussed Drath fleet movements and territorial ambitions. The Imperium was looking for easy conquests, and there were still many isolated species scattered across the galaxy. Small civilizations that had never developed strong militaries. Peaceful species that believed in negotiation over conflict. They'll keep expanding until someone stops them, she told the Joint Chiefs during one heated meeting. And we need to decide if we're going to be that someone. Why should we? Asked Admiral Kowalski, an older man who preferred cautious policies. It's not our fight. We should focus on protecting our own interests. Elena thought of Shenkara, giving up his home and his people to help strangers. Because it's right, she said. Because we have the power to help. And that means we have the responsibility. The debate continued, unresolved. Earth's government was divided. Some politicians argued for intervention. Others insisted on isolation. Humanity was still finding its identity among the stars, still deciding what kind of species they wanted to be. Elena returned to her flagship after that meeting, tired and frustrated. She sat at her desk and picked up the Kitali crystal, feeling its familiar weight in her palm. I could use your wisdom right now, Shenkara, she said to the empty room. The galaxy is getting darker, and I don't know if we're ready for what's coming. The crystal glowed softly in the dim light, but offered no answers. Across the galaxy, in the carefully guarded territory of the Catalii, Shenkara walked the gardens of his modest home. He was old now. His scales faded to pale silver, his crests drooping with age. He had lived the past 24 years in a kind of peaceful exile, neither fully cast out nor fully welcomed back. His daughter, Kira Shen, had indeed become a doctor. She ran a clinic now in the capital city, treating patients with a combination of traditional Catalii medicine and new techniques she had developed herself. She had never married, devoting herself instead to her work and to caring for her aging father. You should rest more, she told him often. Your hearts are not as strong as they used to be. Shenkara would smile and tell her he had plenty of time to rest when he was dead. He thought about the humans sometimes. About Commander Vasquez and her crew of 12. Shivering in the cold of their dying ship, he wondered if they had survived the journey home, if they had thrived, if they remembered the Kitali captain who had helped them. He watched the news feeds that reported on human expansion. His people watched too, with suspicion and fear. The humans were growing so powerful, so quickly. They were aggressive and territorial, everything the Catalii had learned to fear. They are dangerous, his neighbors whispered. They will come for us eventually. But Shenkara remembered Commander Vasquez's eyes when she made her promise. He remembered the way her crew had thanked him, over and over, with tears and trembling voices. He remembered their awkward attempts to learn Kitali words, their respectful questions about his culture, their genuine care when he told them about his daughter. They are not like the others, he told anyone who would listen. They are fierce, yes, but they are also loyal. They remember kindness. Few believed him. The Ketali had closed their doors long ago, and most were content to keep them closed forever. But Shankara kept his own navigation crystal, the twin to the one he had given Elena. Sometimes, in the evening, he would hold it and hum the old star songs, wondering if somewhere across the vast dark, a human admiral was holding its partner and remembering. The years turned. Ships crossed the void. Empires rose and fell in miniature dramas played out across scattered worlds. The Droth Imperium grew stronger, more confident, more hungry, and in the carefully isolated space of the Ketali, in the strategic planning rooms where war princes plotted their next conquests, eyes turned toward an old, wealthy, and seemingly defenseless civilization. The Ketali had avoided contact for so long that most species had forgotten they existed. They had no allies, no trade partners, no defense agreements with stronger powers. Their territory was rich in rare minerals and sat at a strategic crossroads between three major trade routes. They were, in the cold calculation of military strategists, a perfect target, but none of this was known to Elena Vasquez as she stood on her bridge, watching fighters dance among the stars. She did not know that in the hidden chambers of the Droth Imperium, plans were being drawn up. She did not know that in less than a year, she would need to prove every promise she had ever made. She only knew that she commanded a battle group, that she served humanity with honor, and that somewhere in the galaxy, there was a Ketali captain. She owed a debt she could never truly repay. The navigation crystal glowed on her desk, patient and waiting. Time moved forward, as it always does. And the galaxy, vast and cold and indifferent, spun toward a moment that would change everything. The signal arrived on a Tuesday morning, station time, at monitoring post Delta 7 on the edge of human space. Ensign Park was halfway through his third cup of coffee when the computer chimed. He glanced at his screen, expecting another commercial transmission or navigation beacon. Instead, he saw something that made him set his cup down so hard it sloshed over the rim. The signal was old. Not old as in transmitted years ago, but old in format. It used frequency bands that had not been common for decades, encryption protocols that were in the historical database rather than the active one. The computer was struggling to decode it, cycling through ancient cipher keys. Park leaned forward, his fatigue forgotten. He pulled up the signal analysis and felt his stomach drop. The transmission was weak, barely detectable, and it was using Ketali codes. "Oh no," he whispered. It took the computer 17 minutes to fully decode the message. 17 minutes during which Park sat frozen, watching the progress bar crawl across his screen. When the translation finally appeared, he read it 3 times to make sure he was not hallucinating from lack of sleep. The message was simple. Terribly, horribly simple. Shankara calls the debt. Ketali Prime falls. Protect the children. Park's hands shook as he initiated the priority alert protocol. Within seconds, the message was bouncing through the communication network, racing toward Earth and every human outpost, every ship, every station, encoded with the highest priority flag, tagged with a reference that every captain in the fleet knew by heart. The Ketali debt. Admiral Elena Vasquez was reviewing supply reports in her ready room when her communications officer burst through the door without knocking. The breach of protocol alone told her something was desperately wrong. "Admiral, you need to see this," Lieutenant Morrison said, his face pale. He handed her the tablet. Elena read the message. Read it again. Her hands began to shake. "When was this transmitted?" she asked, her voice carefully controlled. 18 hours ago. It's been bouncing through the interstellar network. The Ketali must have broadcast it on every frequency they could, hoping someone would pick it up. Elena stood abruptly, the chair scraping behind her. "Get me a channel to Fleet Command. Now. And start calculating jump coordinates to Ketali Prime. Admiral, that's 47 light years. Even at maximum burn, we're looking at 2 weeks." "I'm aware," Elena said, already moving toward the bridge. "But we're going anyway. Send the message to every ship in the battle group. We leave within the hour." Morrison followed her, speaking rapidly into his comm unit. Elena's mind was racing. Kitali Prime was far beyond normal patrol routes. She had no orders, no authorization for a military action of this scale. She was making a decision that could end her career. She did not hesitate. On the bridge, her crew looked up as she entered. She could see the confusion on their faces. They had been preparing for a routine patrol of the Epsilon sector, not a long-range emergency deployment. Helm, I need you to plot the fastest course to Kitali Prime, Elena ordered. Communications, I want a fleet-wide channel opened. Yes, Admiral, came the crisp response. Elena took a breath. All ships, this is Admiral Vasquez. 24 years ago, a Ketali captain named Shankara saved my life and the lives of 12 crew members when our ship was dying in the void. He risked everything to help us. I swore to him that if the Ketali ever needed us, we would come. She paused, letting the words sink in. Every officer in her battle group knew the story. It was part of their tradition now. 1 hour ago, we received a distress signal from Kitali Prime. Shankara himself is calling for help. I am taking the Indomitable to answer that call. Any ship that wishes to follow me may do so. Any ship that chooses to remain on patrol will face no consequences. This is not an official mission. This is a debt. The channel fell silent. Elena waited, wondering if any ship would join her, wondering if she was about to throw away her career for a promise made in desperation 2 decades ago. Then Captain Lee of the cruiser Defiant spoke up. Indomitable, this is Defiant. We're with you, Admiral. Setting course for Kitali Prime now. Tan. Indomitable, this is Destroyer Raptor. We're coming too. Indomitable, Carrier Washington. On your wing, Admiral. 1 by 1, every ship in the 7th Battle Group confirmed. 42 vessels, representing thousands of crew members and billions of credits worth of military hardware, all turning toward Kitali Prime. Elena felt tears sting her eyes. She blinked them away. Begin jump calculations. We leave as soon as we're ready. But something else was happening across human space. Something unprecedented. On the merchant vessel Free Trader, halfway across the galaxy, Captain Marcus Chen was loading cargo containers when his communications officer brought him the message. Marcus read it once and started laughing, though his eyes were wet. Cancel the loading, he told his confused crew. We're going to Kitali Prime. Sir, we have a delivery schedule. If we break, contract. I know, Marcus said. And I don't care. 20 years ago, a Kitali ship gave me star charts when my nav computer died. They saved my life. Now, they need help. He looked at his crew, at their worried faces. Anyone who wants to leave can take the shuttle to the station. I'll pay for your transport home. But I'm going. His first officer, a woman named Sarah who had served with him for 12 years, smiled. On the science vessel Discovery, Captain Yuki Tanaka received the message during a deep space survey mission. She had 3 months of research planned. Samples collected. Data that could advance human understanding of stellar phenomena. She deleted the research schedule without a second thought. Set course for Kitali Prime, she told her helmsman. Maximum speed. Captain, our mission. The mission just changed, Yuki said firmly. The Kitali pulled us out of a spatial anomaly 5 years ago. They asked nothing in return. Now, it's our turn. All across human space, the pattern repeated. Every captain who had ever been helped by the Ketali. Every captain who knew someone who had been helped. Every captain who had heard the stories and taken them to heart. They abandoned their missions, broke their contracts, changed their courses. No one ordered them to go. No government directive was issued. This was purely voluntary. A collective decision made by hundreds of individuals across light years of space. On Earth, in the halls of government, politicians watched the reports with growing alarm. They're going to start a war, said one senator. The Drath Imperium will see this as an act of aggression. We'll have a full-scale conflict on our hands. We should order them to stand down, said another. The Secretary of Defense, a gray-haired woman named General Torres, shook her head. You don't understand. We can't order them to stand down. They're going because of debts. Personal debts. This is bigger than military protocol. Then what do we do? The senator demanded. General Torres looked at the star map on the wall, at the hundreds of small blue dots representing human ships, all converging on one point. Kitali Prime. We support them, she said quietly. We tell the galaxy that Earth stands with its captains, because if we don't, we lose something far more valuable than any political alliance. We lose our honor. The president of the United Earth Council was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. Draft a statement. Make it clear that while these captains act of their own accord, Earth will not abandon them. And someone get me intelligence on what's actually happening at Kitali Prime. The intelligence reports painted a grim picture. The Droth Imperium had surrounded Kitali Prime with a blockade fleet. 43 warships, including the dreadnought Imperial Fang, commanded by War Prince Thexmor himself. They had cut off all communications and were demanding the Kitali surrender their world for integration into the Imperium. The Kitali had refused. They had little military capability, relying instead on their isolation and the general galactic agreement to leave them alone. But the Droth respected no such agreements. The blockade had been in place for 2 weeks. The Droth were patient, content to starve the Kitali into submission. They had intercepted 3 attempts by the Kitali to break through the blockade. 2 ships had been captured. 1 had been destroyed. It was only after losing that 3rd ship that Shenkara, now serving as a civilian advisor to the Kitali Defense Council, had convinced his people to send the distress call. Even then, many had argued against it. We will not beg, the council leader had said. We are Kitali. We endure alone. We are dying alone, Shenkara had replied. There is no honor in pride that kills our children. I know humans. They will come. You know one human, the council leader said dismissively. From decades ago. Why would she remember? Why would she care? Shenkara had looked at the old navigation crystal he still kept, its twin somewhere among the stars. Because she promised. And humans, whatever else they may be, keep their promises. The council had finally, reluctantly, agreed to transmit the distress signal. They did not expect anyone to answer. On Kitali Prime, in the medical district that was now overflowing with injured from the Droth attacks, Kirashen worked tirelessly. She had not slept in 30 hours. Her healing hands were steady as she treated a child's burns, but her heart ached with exhaustion and fear. Her father found her during a rare, quiet moment. Shenkara looked old and frail, but his eyes were alert. You should rest, daughter, he said gently. Kirashen shook her head. There are too many patients. If the Droth break through, they won't, Shenkara said with certainty. How can you know that? He showed her his navigation crystal. It was glowing brighter than usual, pulsing with a soft rhythm. Because help is coming. I can feel it. Kirashen wanted to believe him. But as she looked out the window at the night sky, at the distant lights that were Droth warships in orbit, she felt only despair. Admiral Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the tactical display with an expression of fierce concentration. They were 3 days out from Kitali Prime now, and the reports were flowing in. Over 800 human ships were converging on the Kitali homeworld. 800. It was the largest voluntary fleet assembly in human history. Warships and merchant vessels, science ships and personal yachts, military cruisers and civilian transports. They came from every corner of human space, flying the colors of a dozen different corporations, governments, and independent commands. Admiral, said Captain Rodriguez quietly, we have confirmation from Fleet Command. The Droth Imperium is aware of our approach. They've issued a warning that any interference will be considered an act of war. Elena did not take her eyes from the display. Acknowledged. Continue on course. Admiral, the tactical team has run simulations. The Drath fleet outnumbers our combined forces 3-1. They have superior shielding technology and heavier weapons. Our estimated casualties— I know the numbers, Captain, Elena interrupted. I've read the same reports, and we're going anyway. She turned to face her bridge crew. Young faces, mostly. Officers who had trained in peace and never expected to face a battle like this. I won't lie to you, she said. The Drath are powerful. We'll be outgunned and outnumbered. Some of us won't come home. She paused. But 24 years ago, a Kitali captain looked at a dying human ship and chose to help, even though it cost him everything. He didn't calculate the odds. He didn't worry about what was strategically sound. He just did what was right. She straightened. Now it's our turn. The Kitali need help, and we're going to give it to them. Not because command ordered it. Not because it's politically advantageous, but because it's right. Because a debt was owed, and we pay our debts. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Rodriguez smiled. Well, when you put it that way, Admiral, how could we refuse? Elena smiled back. How indeed? Communications. Start coordinating with the other captains. I want a battle plan, ready before we reach Kitali Prime. And someone contact the Drath. It's time they understood exactly what they're dealing with. Across the void, 800 human ships raced toward a confrontation that would echo through galactic history. Aboard each vessel, crew members checked weapons systems and said quiet prayers. They wrote messages to loved ones, just in case. They told each other stories about the Kitali who had helped their species, building courage from memory and myth. And on Kitali Prime, as the Drath blockade tightened its grip, Shankara stood in his garden holding a glowing crystal and whispering to the stars. They're coming, he told his daughter. The humans are coming. How can you be sure, Father? Shankara smiled. Because Commander Vasquez promised. And I have learned that when a human makes a promise, the entire galaxy should take notice. War Prince Vex Moore of the Drath Imperium stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Imperial Fang, studying the tactical display with growing disbelief. The holographic projection showed his blockade fleet in orbit around Kitali Prime, and surrounding that, like a gathering storm, hundreds of incoming vessels. All of them human. How many now? He demanded. His tactical officer, a younger Drath with battle scars across his armored face, checked his console. 817 ships. War Prince. More are arriving every hour. Dexmoor's claws scraped against the command rail. The Drath were 10 feet tall, covered in thick, armored plating that had evolved over millennia. They were born warriors, and Dexmoor had never lost a battle in his 40 years of service to the Imperium. But he had also never faced anything like this. What are the humans doing? He asked. This is not their territory. This is not their concern. His intelligence officer, a rare Drath female who had studied alien species for decades, stepped forward. War Prince, we have intercepted their communications. They claim a debt to the Kitali. Something about a rescue 24 years ago. Dexmoor turned to stare at her. A debt? One incident, decades old. And they mobilized nearly half their space fleet? So it appears, War Prince. That's insane, Dexmoor said flatly. No species operates that way. There must be strategic value we're missing. Perhaps the Kitali have resources the humans want, but his intelligence officer shook her head. Our analysis suggests otherwise. The human fleet includes civilian vessels, merchant ships, even personal yachts. This is not a military operation. It appears to be voluntary. Dexmoor felt a chill run down his spine. He had studied many species in his rise to power. The logical Rixathi, the artistic Valorians, the bureaucratic Corellians. Each species could be understood, predicted, manipulated. But humans were different. They operated on principles that seemed irrational, even suicidal. They held grudges for generations. They risked everything for their companions. And apparently, they remembered debts like other species remembered ancient wars. Open a channel to the human fleet, he ordered. Let's see if they can be reasoned with. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a human warship. A woman stood at its center, older than most humans. Thexmore had encountered, with gray hair and a face marked by time and authority. 4 stars gleamed on her uniform collar. I am War Prince Thexmore of the Droth Imperium, he began, using his most formal tone. To whom do I have the honor of speaking? Admiral Elena Vasquez, United Earth Fleet, 7th Battle Group. The woman replied. Her voice was calm, but Thexmore detected steel beneath it. Admiral Vasquez, I must inform you that you are approaching a legitimate military operation. The Ketali world of Ketali Prime is undergoing protective integration into the Droth Imperium. This is an internal matter that does not concern humanity. Elena's expression did not change. I disagree, War Prince. This concerns us greatly. How so? You have no treaties with the Ketali, no trade agreements, no alliance. They are isolationists who have refused contact with all species, including your own. 24 years ago, Elena said, a Ketali captain named Shenkara saved my life and the lives of 12 crew members. He risked exile from his own people to help us. He asked nothing in return. Thexmore waved a dismissive claw. A single incident, Admiral. Surely you do not risk war over such a small matter. Elena's eyes hardened. That small matter is everything, War Prince. Shenkara helped us when he had nothing to gain and everything to lose. That makes this a human matter. He called for help, and we are answering. Be reasonable, Admiral. I have 43 warships. My intelligence reports that your combined fleet, while numerous, is mostly civilian vessels. You are outgunned and outmatched. If you attack, many of your people will die. I know, Elena said simply. We're coming anyway. Thexmore felt his frustration rising. This is madness. What strategic value does this world hold for you? What resources? What territory? Help me understand what you hope to gain. Elena leaned forward slightly. We gain nothing, War Prince, except our honor. We pay a debt. That's what humans do. Honor. Thexmore repeated the word, like it tasted strange. Honor is a luxury of the strong, Admiral. The weak invoke it when they have nothing else. Then I suppose we'll see who's weak and who's strong, Elena replied. I'm giving you one chance to withdraw your fleet peacefully. Leave Ketali Prime and return to Imperium space. No one needs to die today. Thexmore's military pride surged. A human? Telling him to withdraw? And if I refuse? Elena's smile was cold and sharp. Then you'll discover why 800 human captains abandoned their duties to come here. You'll learn what happens when you threaten someone we owe, and you'll understand, too late, that humans don't bluff. The channel cut off. Thexmore stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Analysis, he demanded. His tactical officer brought up the fleet composition on the main display. War Prince. The human fleet is mixed. Approximately 200 military vessels of various classes. The rest are civilian, though many appear to be armed. The military ships are equivalent to our mid-tier cruisers and destroyers. Nothing that matches the Imperial Fang. Then why do I feel concerned? Thexmore muttered. His intelligence officer spoke up again. War Prince. May I speak freely? Do so. I have studied human military doctrine. They are unconventional. They use tactics that would be considered reckless by Droth standards. They sacrifice individual ships readily if it achieves a larger goal, and they fight with extreme aggression when defending those they consider their own. The Ketali are not their own, Thexmore pointed out. To the humans, apparently they are. A debt creates a bond. We do not think this way, but they do. Thexmore considered his options. He could withdraw, but that would be seen as weakness. The Imperium did not retreat from inferior forces. His career would be over, or he could fight, destroy the human fleet, and claim Kitali Prime. The Imperium would celebrate him as a hero, but there was a third possibility, one that nagged at his mind. What if the humans were more dangerous than they appeared? What if their willingness to sacrifice was not weakness, but terrifying strength? He pushed the doubt away. We hold position. If the humans attack, we will destroy them. The Imperium does not yield. Across the void, on 800 human ships, crews prepared for battle. On the Indomitable, Elena gathered her senior officers in the strategy room. The holographic display showed the Drath fleet in red, the human fleet in blue, and Kitali Prime in green at the center. We're outgunned, she said bluntly. The Drath have superior shielding, heavier weapons, and better armor. In a straight fight, they'll win. So we don't fight straight, said Captain Lee of the Defiant, a grin on his scarred face. We fight human, Elena nodded. Exactly. Captain Tanaka, your science vessels have the best sensors. I want you on point, identifying weak spots in their formation. Marcus Chen, your merchant ships are fast and maneuverable. I'm going to need you to play bait. Marcus, attending the meeting via holographic link from the Free Trader, raised an eyebrow. Bait implies you want us to get shot at, Admiral. I want you to look like you're going to get shot at. Elena corrected. Lead them on a chase. Make them think you're easy targets. Pull some of their fleet out of position. We can do that, Marcus said. What else? Elena highlighted several points on the display. The Drath are disciplined. They fight in tight formations, supporting each other. That's a strength, but it's also a weakness. If we can break their formation, force them to spread out, we can engage them in smaller groups where our numbers give us an advantage. Captain Rodriguez spoke up. Admiral, what about the Kitali? Do we know if they have any defensive capability? Limited, Elena replied. Intelligence reports suggest they have some orbital defense platforms, but they're outdated. The Kitali haven't fought a war in centuries. They rely on isolation, not military strength. Then, we're their military strength, said Captain Lee. I like it. What's the attack plan? Elena took a deep breath. We're going to split into 3 groups. Group Alpha, the heavy warships, will engage the Drath fleet directly. Group Beta, the fast attack ships and civilian vessels, will harass their flanks and rear. Group Charlie, our carriers and support ships, will stay back and provide long-range support. She paused. But before we attack, I'm going to try one more time to get Thexmore to withdraw peacefully. Maybe seeing all of us arrive will change his mind. The officers exchanged glances. Most looked doubtful. Admiral, Captain Tanaka said gently, the Drath don't retreat. It's not in their culture. Thexmore would rather die than show weakness. I know, Elena said, but I have to try. Every life we can save matters. On Kitali Prime, in the capital city, Shenkara stood before the Planetary Defense Council. The room was ancient, its walls carved from living crystal that pulsed with soft light. 12 council members sat in a circle, their faces grave. The humans are here, Shenkara announced. Over 800 ships. They came, just as I said they would. Council leader Miraseth's crests rose in surprise. 800? That is more than I expected. It is more than any of us expected, said another council member. But what can they do against the Drath? We have studied their fleet. They are outmatched. Shenkara's daughter, Kira Shen, stood beside her father. She had been treating wounded for weeks now, and her exhaustion showed. Does it matter? They came. No one else in the galaxy answered our call. Only the humans remembered. Remembered what? Miraseth asked. One rescue? Decades ago? Remembered kindness, Shenkara said softly. Remembered that when we helped them, we asked nothing in return. And now, they return that gift, even though it may cost them everything. He walked to the window, looking up at the sky where he knew the human fleet was gathering, just beyond the Droth blockade. "I told Commander Vasquez that we would never call for help." "I was wrong, but I was right about one thing. I told her that humans keep their promises, and they do." Miraseth was quiet for a long moment. "What would you have us do?" "Shenkara, fight," he said simply. "The humans did not come here to die alone. They came to help us defend our home. Activate every defense platform we have. Arm every ship that can fly. We have spent centuries hiding behind our walls. Perhaps it is time to remember that we were once a people who stood for something." The council debated for another hour. Finally, reluctantly, they agreed. Orders were sent to the orbital defense platforms to power up their weapons. Maintenance crews scrambled to prepare ships that had not flown in years. And across Kitali Prime, citizens watched the sky and wondered if they were about to witness the end of their civilization or its rebirth. In orbit, the tension mounted. The Droth fleet held their position. Weapons powered, shields at maximum. The human fleet completed their arrival, ship after ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel and forming up in organized chaos. Admiral Vasquez opened one final channel to War Prince Thexmor. "This is your last chance," she said. "Withdraw now. No one has to die today." "Ride." Thexmor's face appeared on the screen. His expression was hard, his claws gripping his command rail. "I am Drath, Admiral. We do not flee from lesser species. If you attack, we will destroy you." Elena nodded slowly. "Then I'm sorry, War Prince. You've made your choice. I'll see you on the other side." She cut the channel and turned to her bridge crew. "All ships. This is Admiral Vasquez. Battle stations. Code red. Weapons free." She paused, then added softly, "And may whatever gods are listening forgive us for what we're about to do." End quote. We can be listening. End quote. Weapons free. Across 800 ships, alarms blared. Weapons, systems, powered up. Shields strengthened. Thousands of human crew members took their positions. Their faces set with determination and fear in equal measure. On the Imperial Fang, Thexmor watched the human fleet begin to move. He saw their formation shift, saw them split into 3 distinct groups, just as his tactical officer had predicted they would. "They're actually attacking," he said, almost in disbelief. "They're choosing to die for the Catalii." His intelligence officer stood beside him. "They're choosing to honor a debt, War Prince. To humans, that's the same as choosing to live. Without honor, they believe they're already dead." Thexmor shook his head. "Madness. But if they want to die, I'll give them their wish. All ships, prepare to engage. Target their military vessels first. Show these humans the price of their honor." The battle for Kitali Prime was about to begin. And the galaxy, watching from a distance, held its breath. The first shot came from the Droth dreadnought, Imperial Fang. A massive beam of concentrated energy lanced across the darkness, striking the human destroyer Valiant. The ship's shields flared bright blue, absorbed the hit, then failed. The second hit punched through the hull, and the Valiant exploded in a blossom of fire and debris. 37 crew members died in that instant. It was the first blood of what would become known as the Battle of Kitali Prime. Admiral Elena Vasquez watched from the bridge of the Indomitable, her face carved from stone. "All ships, weapons free. Execute attack pattern Delta, and make them pay for every shot." The human fleet surged forward like a breaking wave. It was not a coordinated military assault. It could not be, with captains from dozens of different commands flying ships of wildly varying capabilities. But what it lacked in precision, it made up for in sheer ferocity. The Droth had never seen anything like it. Marcus Chen's merchant ship, Free Trader, armed with mining lasers and improvised missile launchers, dove straight at a Droth cruiser 3 times its size. The cruiser fired, but Marcus had already rolled away, his ship dancing through space with the agility born of years dodging asteroids in mining fields. "Come on, you big beautiful target," Marcus muttered, leading the cruiser away from the main formation. "Chase me." The cruiser followed, along with 2 destroyers. Exactly as Admiral Vasquez had predicted. As soon as they were isolated, 5 human military vessels that had been waiting in silence powered up their weapons and attacked from 3 sides. The Droth cruiser's shields held for 30 seconds. Then they failed, and the ship was torn apart by concentrated fire. Across the battle space, the same scene repeated. Small human ships, fast and maneuverable, would harass Droth vessels until they broke formation to give chase. Then the human military ships would pounce, using their numbers to overwhelm isolated targets. Captain Yuki Tanaka's science vessel, Discovery, never designed for combat, used its powerful sensors to coordinate the attacks. Droth destroyer at heading 270 has weakened shields on the port side, she transmitted, recommending focused fire from Group Beta. 3 human ships immediately changed course, their weapons converging on the weak point. The Droth destroyer tried to rotate, to bring its stronger shields to bear, but the humans were too fast. Within minutes, the destroyer was crippled. War Prince Thexmore watched his careful formation dissolve into chaos. The humans were everywhere, darting in and out like angry insects, each sting small, but the cumulative effect devastating. "They fight without honor," his tactical officer said. "They strike from behind, gang up on single targets, use their weak ships as bait. They fight to win," Thexmore corrected grimly. "And they're succeeding. Order all ships to tighten formation. We cannot allow them to isolate our vessels." But tightening the formation created its own problem. With his ships clustered together, Thexmore could not bring all his weapons to bear. The humans circled his fleet like predators around prey, striking wherever they found an opening. On the Indomitable, Elena coordinated the assault with the calm focus of someone who had prepared for this moment for 24 years. "Captain Lee, take the Defiant and hit their left flank. Captain Rodriguez, I need you to draw fire away from the carrier group. They're targeting Washington." "On it, Admiral," Rodriguez replied. The Indomitable surged forward, its heavy guns blazing. The massive battleship absorbed hit after hit, its shields flaring with each impact. But it bought precious time for the carrier Washington to retreat to safety. Then something changed the course of the battle. From Kitali Prime, the orbital defense platforms activated. They were old, using technology that was decades out of date, but there were dozens of them, and they had been positioned over centuries to provide overlapping fields of fire. Blue-white energy beams lanced up from the planet's surface, striking the Droth fleet from below. The Droth had been focused entirely on the human ships, and this new attack from an unexpected direction caught them by surprise. "The Kitali are fighting," Elena said, a smile breaking across her face. "They're actually fighting." On Kitali Prime, Shenkara stood in the Planetary Defense Control Center, watching his people operate weapon systems they had not touched in generations. His daughter stood beside him, her healing hands now working communication panels, coordinating the defense platforms with the human fleet. "Target the large ship in the center," Kirashen said to the weapons operators. "The one the humans are avoiding. That's their command vessel." Dozens of energy beams converged on the Imperial Fang. The dreadnought's shields absorbed most of the damage, but several hits got through, scorching the heavy armor plating. Thexmore felt his ship shake beneath him. "Return fire. Destroy those platforms." But to target the platforms, he had to divert weapons from the human fleet. And the moment he did, the humans pressed their attack even harder. Captain Lee saw the opening. "All ships, the Droth, are focusing on the planet. Now's our chance. Hit them with everything we have." The human fleet surged forward in one coordinated rush. Every ship that still had weapons fired. Missiles and energy beams and kinetic rounds filled the space between the two fleets. The Droth shields, powerful as they were, could not stop everything. A Droth cruiser exploded, then a destroyer, then another cruiser. But the Droth were not defeated yet. They were warriors, bred for battle across generations. They rallied, their discipline reasserting itself. The Imperial Fang's main guns fired continuously, each shot destroying or crippling a human vessel. The human destroyer, Perseus, broke apart under sustained fire. The merchant ship Golden Dawn, armed only with civilian-grade weapons, was cut in half by a Drath beam weapon. The frigate Sparrowhawk, trying to shield smaller ships, took 3 direct hits and went dark, drifting lifelessly through the battle space. The casualties mounted. Human ships were dying, their crews sacrificing themselves to protect the Kitali world. But they did not retreat. They did not flee. Every time a ship fell, 2 more moved forward to take its place. Elena watched the tactical display, watched her fleet being torn apart, and felt each loss like a knife to her heart. These were her people, her fellow captains, dying for a promise she had made 24 years ago. "Admiral, we've lost 28 ships," Captain Rodriguez reported, his voice tight. "Casualties estimated at over 8,000. We cannot sustain this rate of loss." "I know," Elena said quietly. Then, louder. "All ships, concentrate fire on the Imperial Fang. If we take out their command ship, the rest might surrender." It was a desperate gamble. The Imperial Fang was the most heavily armored and shielded ship in the Drath fleet. To destroy it would require every remaining human ship to focus their fire, leaving them vulnerable to the other Drath vessels. But Elena could see that they were winning, slowly and painfully. The Drath fleet had been reduced from 43 ships to 31. The humans still had over 700 vessels, though many were damaged. The human fleet turned as one, a swarm of ships converging on the massive dreadnought at the center of the Drath formation. Every weapon fired. The space around the Imperial Fang became a wall of energy and explosive force. Thexmore felt his ship shudder under the assault. Alarms blared across the command deck. "Shields at 40%, his tactical officer reported. 35. 30. War Prince. We cannot withstand this much longer." Thexmore gripped his command rail, his claws digging into the metal. He had never retreated, never surrendered. But as he watched human ships throw themselves at his vessel with reckless abandon, as he saw them sacrifice themselves to protect a species that was not even their own, he understood something. The humans were not fighting for strategic value or territorial gain. They were fighting for something he had always dismissed as weakness. They were fighting for honor, for loyalty, for the simple principle that a debt must be repaid, and they would rather die than compromise that principle. "War Prince, shields at 20%, his tactical officer said urgently. "We must withdraw, or we will be destroyed." Thexmore looked at the tactical display. His fleet was being systematically destroyed. Even if he won this battle, what would be left? A Pyrrhic victory against an enemy that should not have even challenged him. And the humans would remember. They would tell this story. They would make heroes of those who died here. And every human in the galaxy would know that the Droth Imperium had threatened someone they considered under their protection. There would be no peace with humanity after this. No trade, no diplomacy. Only hatred and the promise of future conflict. "Open a channel to the human admiral," Thexmore said quietly. The view screen flickered, showing Admiral Vasquez's face. She looked tired, her hair disheveled, a cut bleeding on her forehead from where falling debris had struck her. But her eyes were sharp and determined. "War Prince," she said. Thexmore felt something he had rarely experienced in his long military career: respect for an enemy. "Admiral Vasquez, I yield. You have won. I will withdraw my fleet from Kitali Prime." Elena stared at him for a long moment. "What are your terms?" "No terms. We will leave. The Kitali will remain independent. And I will report to my superiors that this world is under human protection." He paused. "Though, I must ask, why? Why sacrifice so much for species that are not your own? What did you possibly gain that was worth the lives of your people? Elena's expression softened slightly. We gained our honor, War Prince. We proved that humans keep their promises. 24 years ago, a Kettlei saved my life. Today, 800 human captains came to repay that debt. That's who we are. That's what we do. Thexmore nodded slowly. Then, I hope we never face each other in battle again, Admiral. Because I do not think I could defeat an enemy who fights the way you do. The channel closed. Across the battle space, the Drath fleet began to withdraw. The human ships held their positions, weapons still powered, watching warily until the last Drath vessel had jumped to faster than light speed. Then, and only then, did Elena allow herself to breathe. She sat down heavily in her command chair and closed her eyes. Status report, she said wearily. Captain Rodriguez checked his console. We lost 206 ships, Admiral. Estimated casualties, 33,000 killed, or critically injured. Another 50,000 with minor injuries, 33,000. Elena felt the weight of that number crush down on her. 33,000 people who had volunteered to come here, who had believed in a promise, who had died defending strangers. And the Kettlei? She asked. All safe, Admiral. The planet's shields held. No Droth troops made it to the surface. Elena opened her eyes and looked at the view screen, which now showed Kettlei Prime floating peacefully in space. A beautiful blue-green world, unmarred by the battle that had raged in its orbit. Open a channel to the planet, she said. I need to speak with Shankara. The view screen changed, showing the interior of a Kettlei command center. And there, standing in the center, was an old Kettlei male with faded silver scales and drooping crests. But his eyes were the same. Bright and intelligent and kind. Commander Vasquez, Shankara said softly, then corrected himself. Admiral Vasquez. You came. Elena felt tears running down her cheeks. She did not bother to wipe them away. I promised. We all promised. 800 captains came because of what you did for me and my crew. I only helped 12 people, Shankara said, wonder in his voice. You helped humanity. Elena replied. You showed us that kindness exists in the galaxy, that not everyone is an enemy. That sometimes, the right thing to do is to help someone who needs it, no questions asked. She paused. We lost 33,000 people defending your world. The debt is paid. Overpaid, I'd say. Shankara's crests rose and fell, and Elena realized the old Kettlei was crying too. There was no debt, Admiral. What I did because it was right. I asked for no payment. I know. Elena said gently. That's exactly why we came. On Kettlei Prime, in the capital city, crowds had gathered to watch the battle. As the Drath fleet withdrew, and the human ships held their position, victorious, a sound rose from the Kettlei people. It started small, just a few voices, then grew into a thunderous chorus. They were singing the old star songs, the navigation melodies that Shankara had taught Elena's crew decades ago. But the words were new, improvised, telling a story of humans who came from across the stars to defend the Kettlei. Kira Shen stood beside her father, tears streaming down her face. What have you done, father? What have you brought to our world? Shankara smiled, his old scales catching the light. Hope, daughter. I have brought hope. And allies. True allies. Not born of treaties or trade, but of something deeper, something that may change everything. The Kettlei Planetary Council convened in emergency session. For the first time in centuries, they made a decision to end their isolation. They voted, unanimously, to establish diplomatic relations with humanity, to open their borders, to join the greater galactic community. We have hidden for too long, Council Leader Miraseth declared. Today, we learned that walls built from fear become prisons. Today, We learned that there are species who value honor and loyalty above profit. Today, we learned that we are not alone. 6 months later, Elena Vasquez stood on a dais in the capital city of Ketali Prime. She was in full dress uniform, medals gleaming on her chest. Representatives from dozens of species had come to witness this moment. Kira Shen, now appointed as the first Ketali ambassador to humanity, stood beside her father. She held a crystal, large and luminous, carved with intricate patterns that told the story of the Battle of Ketali Prime. "For saving our world," she said, her voice translated into a dozen languages. "For remembering kindness. For honoring a debt that we never asked to be repaid. The Ketali people give their gratitude to humanity. May our species be forever joined in friendship." She presented the crystal to Elena, who accepted it with both hands. The crowd erupted in cheers, Ketali voices blending with human ones in a celebration that echoed across the city. That evening, Elena walked with Shenkara through his garden. The old Ketali moved slowly now, but his mind was sharp as ever. "I never thought I would see this day," he said. "My people, celebrating, opening their hearts to the galaxy again. You made it possible," Elena said, "by doing one simple act of kindness." Shenkara shook his head. "I saved 12 people. You showed us that the galaxy has room for compassion. We just proved you right." They reached a bench beneath a tree with silver leaves that chimed in the wind. They sat together, an old human and an old Ketali, looking up at the stars. "What happens now?" Shenkara asked. Elena smiled. Now the galaxy learns something important. Help a human once, and 800 will come when you call. That saying is spreading already. Some species think it's a threat, others see it as an opportunity. And what is it really? A promise, Elena said simply. A promise that in this big, cold, often cruel galaxy, there are still people who believe that honor matters, that debts should be paid, that kindness should be answered with kindness. Above them, in orbit, human and Ketali ships patrolled together. The first joint human-Ketali exploration vessel, commanded by Kira Shen and a human captain named James Park, was being commissioned. New alliances were forming. Old fears were fading. And in a museum in New Chicago on Earth, Elena's original navigation crystal sat in a place of honor. Beside it was a plaque that told the story of Commander Elena Vasquez and Captain Shenkara, of a rescue in the darkness and a debt repaid in blood and fire. Thousands visited that museum every day. Young people, old people, humans, and aliens alike. They would stand before that crystal and think about what it meant to honor a promise, about what it meant to be loyal, about what it meant to be human. The galaxy had learned a lesson at Ketali Prime. It was a lesson written in the hulls of destroyed ships and the memories of those who fought. It was a lesson that would echo across the stars for generations to come. Humanity could be fierce. Humanity could be dangerous. But above all, humanity remembered. And that changed everything. In the garden, as the twin stars of the Ketali system set below the horizon, Elena and Shenkara sat in comfortable silence. Two old friends, bound by a debt that had reshaped the future. "Thank you," Shenkara said finally, "for keeping your promise." Elena reached over and placed her hand on his. Thank you for giving us the chance to prove who we are." The stars came out one by one, bright and clear in the alien sky. And somewhere among them, 800 human captains looked at those same stars and knew they had done the right thing, because in the end, that was all that mattered.